Good evening and welcome in to Cards Central Postgame on STL Sports Central. He is Brenden Schaeffer. I'm Ethan Hannaford. As always, all the content here at STL Sports Central is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Perhaps game of the year, a candidate for at least the Cardinals win an absolute thriller at Chavez Ravine against the Los Angeles Dodgers to get back to 500. Listen, I know it's been frustrating as of late, but it's nice to just be able to just sit back, watch a baseball game and say, wow, that was unbelievable from start to finish. You get the pitching, you get the clutch hitting, you get the down to the wire end of the game. You get Lars Nootbaar making the play of his life. We're going to break it all down right here in the next however long it may take. And we appreciate you guys all being along for it. I don't even know where to start with this one, Brenden. Let's go. How about this? Let's just start with your general reaction taking in this game. I mean, there were multiple parts in this game, right? Where you're jaw dropping at how great it had been.
Yeah, Taylor puts in the comment here, great play out of Newt. That's one. Clutch hit out of Pozo. That's two. Constant excellence out of Herrera. He hits a home run that helps the Cardinals along in this game. That's three. That none of the first three things coming to mind are how good Sonny Gray was, because this was as good as we saw him outside of the complete game one hitter in Cleveland. And he might have even been more impressive tonight when you consider the lineup the Dodgers have compared to the Guardians. Sonny was fantastic. And I remember being at Busch Stadium a handful of days ago when he just kind of looked around and said, I really just need the weather to cooperate here a little bit. The man doesn't like pitching in the heat. Can't hardly blame him. He got a little more mild conditions out there in LA today, and he was unbelievable, locked in. But so was Tyler Glasnow. And so they go back and forth. You knew the margins would be slim in this one, and both teams kind of have to go to their bullpens in similar moments. And you see both offenses get a little spark from that. Herrera with the home run. The Dodgers manufacture a run. I just the takeaway for me of all of it, though, is the Nootbaar play. That is one of the most clutch catches I've ever seen, to get on his horse at a dead sprint pace and make that play. I didn't think there's any way in the world he was getting in there. It just felt like the type of play that you see drop in for a single and everybody's safe, and it feels very chaotic in nature. And he snagged that ball, and Jojo Romero did the rest. Really, really impressive stuff. I know that it's just a win to get the Cardinals back to 500, and you mentioned it. It's been bleak recently, but this was a fun one. Top to bottom, this was a fun one.
Joel pinch hit Pozo is the nickname, I guess, that we're coming up with now.
I like it.
I've seen a lot of love in here for Yohel Pozo, and he deserves every single bit of it. It feels like every single time he's called upon, he steps up. And by it, right, every time in baseball terms, I think you could categorize that 50% is pretty good. He's now 6 for 12 in pinch hit opportunities with 7 runs driven in. The Cardinals have runners at the corners, nobody out in the top of the 9th inning, and you have Mason Wynn, your hottest hitter at the plate. He pops out to first, and then Thomas Sajaci comes up. He strikes out swinging, and you're thinking, here we go again. I don't know. That's exactly what was going through my mind. Here we go again. And Pedro Pajes coming up to the plate. Pinch hit opportunity for Yohel Pozo, and he comes through once again. And I think he's such a great example, right, of what baseball used to be, in the sense that he understands his value and what he brings to the team is to step up in moments like that. But more important than anything, put the ball in play. He doesn't strike out. And the Cardinals did not need him to load up on a baseball and send it to the left center field gap with it streaking off the bat at 100 miles an hour. They needed him to put the ball in play and find a way to get on base. And he's done that time in and time out when called upon off the bench this year, especially. You have to love what he has been able to provide for this team when called upon. And tonight may have been the most I know he's had some great ones this year, but this may have been the most exciting one in the sense of just how big of a game it was. You're on the road, 46,000 in attendance against the reigning world champion Dodgers. Boy, fun to see a young guy like that in his major league career, I should say, step up and give the Cardinals a lead.
Yeah, there's never really a moment that Pozo is like, you're going to get what you're going to get from Yohel Pozo. I like the time he had the walk-off at Busch, I believe it was, and he told the cat on the field, the cat asked him, what was your approach there? And he says, oh, you know me, no approach. That sounds worse than it is. I think he's just going up there, see ball, hit ball, and that's sort of, maybe didn't get articulated the best way possible, but it's a simple approach, right? And in that spot tonight, it called for a simple approach, and it was the no-brainer decision. You're not holding back anything at that point in the game. It's got to be Pozo taking that pinch hit at bat, and he comes up and gets the job done. And then JoJo, with some help from his defense, holding it in the ninth inning. He's the obvious candidate to take the ninth when he's available after the trades over the weekend, especially when you had two prominent lefties coming up in that Dodgers lineup. It set up really perfectly. Obviously, you took a couple of extra batters that you had to face because Ohtani gets the lead hit. And then I think he was getting squeezed a little bit in the strike zone there with the walk to Smith, but
completely agree.
Works around it, gets his man. I love watching the final swing because the Dodger fans behind home plate are throwing their hands in the air, and it's pretty routine fly to right field. Nootbaar made that catch. That was far from his most difficult play of the inning, but he made that one too. Also, the first thing that comes to mind nowadays when you see a catch like Nootbaar's is, oh man, I wonder what the catch probability was. I actually don't care. I don't want to know. I don't care. I want to know his sprint speed, but I don't care about there's nothing they could tell me that makes me believe anything differently than what my eyes saw in that play. That was truly I tweeted it as one of the best dead sprint catches you'll ever see, which it maybe felt like hyperbole to say anything of that ilk. I am serious. That was an incredible play. Sure looked like he covered a lot of ground, so catch probability could tell me that was a routine play, and I will tell you into the trash can with catch probability, but he got on his horse. There's no doubt about that.
Do you know what the catch probability was?
I don't, and I'm okay not knowing. It cannot be.
I'm going to tell you just to piss you off. Just to piss you off. It was 30%.
Stop. That's not enough.
It is the worst stat in baseball.
It's not useful.
It's never accurate.
It's
never accurate.
You're telling me that 3 out of 10 times that, and again, it's not tailored specifically to the play. There's more. It's a data point, right? There's going to be some math nerd that tells me, well, actually, what we're measuring, I don't care. When you're going to call it catch probability, it probably should have a different name because the probability of him making that play was a lot lower than 30%. Okay, so I'm not making fun of the math people that are trying. In fairness, they're trying their best to give us information that we never had before, but it ain't up to par just yet. Tweak the algorithm, make some changes. It's not, don't put it out there and call it catch probability when that's not, I'm sorry, that play gets made 1 or 2 out of 100 times. That was, truly a remarkable play by Lars Nootbaar. So, you're right. It did irritate. At least it said it acknowledged it was like a hard catch if it was 30%. Here's the other thing that bothers me about, I'm on my soapbox now. The other thing that bothers me about catch probability is sometimes it'll say, that was whatever percent, and then they'll change later. They'll just say, just kidding. It was different because, I don't know, too many people tweeted that they didn't like the answer, and so we changed it to something different. It changes all the time, too. You could look at it 20 minutes from now, and it's going to be something else. So anyway, that's my soapbox. I'm getting down now.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yep.
How about this? Some more useful stats on that play, because I saw this and my eyes popped a little bit. Lars Nootbaar covered 116 feet, but more so what impressed me, his sprint speed was 29.3 feet per second, which is, first off, pretty dang fast. The more impressive part, I thought, was that prior to that, his fastest sprint speed of the year defensively was 27 point, I think 9. I think that's what it was.
In the 27s, though, instead of 29s.
Yeah. Which just tells you, I mean, like that is crazy impressive to be an entire over a second per foot faster. That is absolutely insane. So all to say, first off, to get there, but then to dive and make the play, To my recollection, it is the most impressive defensive play that I remember seeing from a Cardinal in a minute. It's been a minute. It was a very impressive play.
There have been some really good ones, but the dead sprint is such a fun thing to watch because everybody knows what's coming. Like, it's just that sinking pop into the Bermuda Triangle that rarely do you see get caught, especially when he was kind of shading towards center a little bit. He wasn't. I mean, that was just a great play, and so it's good that rewards an effort. It's hard to get, and like inevitably we're going to get back to reality at some point and say, yeah, the Cardinals are at 500. It doesn't look like it's their year, but we can bask in the glow for a minute because, like you said, top to bottom, that was a really fun baseball game against a really highly competitive opponent at their place, packed house. It's okay. Like, it's okay to be hyped over that game. I know it's one game, and I know the Cardinals aren't making the playoffs this year, but damn it, that was pretty cool. That was a good time. That was a good time to watch.
At some point in the midst of the frustration, right, and the suffering, right, for the fans that they have had to endure over the year, it's nice to just sit back and say, like, wow, what a game. And it started with the pitching. Tyler Glasnow was very good, but Sonny Gray outdueled him. Sonny Gray outdueled Tyler Glasnow tonight at Chavez Ravine. Final line score, as I pull it up here, forgive me one moment. 7 innings, 1 hit, the solo home run against Freddie Freeman. That was the 1 earned run, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. He struck out Freeman. He struck out Ohtani twice. I think he struck out Will Smith as well. I know it's been really rough from Sonny Gray here when you look over.
It was too hot. Forget about July. That shit's over. It was just too hot.
So what I'm hearing is Cy Young the rest of the way. That's what I'm hearing.
Here's the problem, though. What's today? Monday?
It is Monday.
They're off Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Off Thursday, Friday. So he does miss Saturday because of the off day. It's supposed to be like 94, even for a night game.
Oh, great.
But would that slot him for Sunday against the Cubs? What's the weather look like for that one? Because, I mean, that's a day game probably.
Well, while you look that up,
I'm gonna look up the weather.
That up, and I'll talk for a little bit here.
Sunny down to 88 for a high. That's a little more
that's palatable. A little bit better. But the funny thing too is that prior to when it got super hot, but I mean it's always relative. I know it hasn't been.
Night game, Sunday night baseball. He's fine.
It hadn't been that crazy of weather, like heat wise, until you got into the thick of July. But Sonny Gray had been really good at Busch Stadium prior to those couple of starts.
Yeah.
Here's the reality, right? You look at how bad the pitching has been. Has Sonny Gray been the worst in the past 6 weeks of the rotation? No, but he hasn't been the catalyst that you were hoping that he would be. So
I think they said he gave up 20 runs in his last 21 innings. It's been a little. I mean, it's been rough. At least in the month of July.
The last 3 starts were terrible. He had the bad one in Colorado. He had the bad one at home, and he had the bad one against Arizona. So I'm not saying it wasn't bleak, but half of those runs came against Arizona when he allowed 10 or 11 runs and whatever.
It was a lot. It was like 8 or 9 or something.
So I say all that to say, hopefully you can get this version of Sonny Gray back. And that you start to move back in the right direction, because if you don't have Sonny Gray performing, at number 1 material, what we're used to seeing in large part from him, then the season's going to feel that much longer these last couple of months of the year.
Yeah. And by the way, there's lots of reasons to root for that for Sonny Gray, because A, you want the Cardinals to win games. It's more fun if they win games. B, he's owed a lot of money next year, and I don't know what Chaim Bloom's planning. I don't know if Sonny Gray wants to look elsewhere, but you definitely on that $35 million. If he's not performing, nobody's picking it up. If he is performing, you at least have an opportunity to decide. You can say, all right, do we want to potentially try to get chips for him, or is he going to be the number 1 and we're going to hang on to it? That'll be a Chaim Bloom decision and a Sonny Gray decision, to be honest with you. But I want to talk about this a little bit more. Pushing Daisies. No, put that back up.
Okay,
Pushing Daisies says we need a sweat percentage stat line. I bet Sonny tops out. All joking aside, I 100% believe in, and I should have thought about this before the game tonight. Should have been able to tell you the Cardinals were going to win because the weather much milder. I was just out in California, just got back. Spent actually all day at LAX yesterday. It was a nightmare. But anyway, it's real. Like his pitching in the heat and humidity is an actual issue, and it's one of those things that seems to manifest just about every July for him. Over the course of his career, he's got a 4.19 ERA in July. That's by far the highest in his career. In August is 2.81. So weather starts to break a little bit. You start to get, a little bit more comfortable. And we saw tonight that continued. That was before tonight. The ERA for August definitely went down a notch for Sonny. And I get it, man. The dude sweats a lot, and it's hard to grip the ball. I think the baseballs have changed from time to time where the seams were higher, the seams are lower, and so that can be difficult to deal with if you're getting a different type of baseball. And I think it's one of those things that when we talked about it after last week and did podcasts about it, and people said, I hate hearing the excuses. Man, it's just what it is. It's not an excuse. It's just explaining a situation that the guy is dealing with. It's not ideal to have that as a Major League Baseball pitcher. I'm not saying it's what you want, but I think it's real. And I think you can expect Sonny to be more effective moving forward when it's not quite as hot outside in St. Louis. I genuinely think that's going to be a thing for him.
They've talked about it on broadcast as well. And I know, we've heard him mention it plenty of times. I mean, this is a guy that will go through jerseys on top of jerseys. He will, I kid you not, he'll share this. He will strip down completely naked and change everything. He hates sweat. So yes, like a little odd, but pitchers have their things, and that's his thing.
After the last game,
doesn't like the heat.
He just kept saying everything's wet. He said it like 8 times because that's what was going on. John Denton even asked him how many jerseys he changed, and he said, I don't even know. I don't know if that was, I just don't want to keep talking about this, or if that was like, it's a number so high that I don't actually know the number. It could have been either, and I would understand. But long story short, he was great tonight. 6:10 start on Sunday Night Baseball, when I assume he'll be scheduled to pitch again on Sunday against the Cubs. And I think he'll probably be good because the high that day is 88, and he doesn't have to pitch till 6 o'clock. So it should be a little bit better.
Sonny Gray in a very impressive outing tonight. The Cardinals 3-2 winners over the Los Angeles Dodgers. We've talked about Lars Nootbaar's unbelievable catch that he made in the 9th inning. We've talked now about Sonny Gray. Ivan Herrera, a solo home run tonight, gives the Cardinals the lead in the 8th inning, 2-1 at that point. They would need a little bit more help. Mason Wynn, also a solo shot tonight. Brenden, it's no secret that the offense has really struggled as of late, and the offense was quiet tonight as well in large part. How do you process the offense and where they're at right now as a whole? I mean, you look at who they had tonight. Tyler Glasnow, obviously, when healthy, one of the best pitchers in baseball. There's no hiding that. So I think that, right, you give us, to a certain extent, a little bit of a understanding, right, of the Cardinals offense having a hard time. Simultaneously, we know that this extends way out than just tonight, way beyond just tonight. So how do you process where this Cardinals offense is as a whole right now? And well, I'll just start with that question for now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't process it super favorably. Tonight was not anything different than what expected. Sometimes you have to when you face a pitcher like this, you kind of have to win games the way that they did. Your pitcher needs to be great. He was. You need to get to their bullpen when you get to them and score off of them when you do. And the Cardinals did that. So I don't count tonight, despite the fact that they only scored 3 runs, as a negative on the offense. Tonight was one of the more, it's going to sound a little weird, but it's one of the more complete efforts of an offense that we've seen in a little bit, just because they knew what the task was and they were able to accomplish it. But if you look at, other recent times, the weekend against San Diego, you had the one breakout game and then kind of 2 duds. And then you have to go back to before the trade deadline when, it was quieter games against the Marlins without being able to put up runs in 2 of the 3 games there. I mean, it's not a robust offense and really hasn't been for weeks and weeks. And you could probably go back months and that be true. The consistency has really waned. You're going to get like a couple times a week where they're going to put it together and break out, but they haven't had that consistency game to game and series to series recently, where it's an expectation. It's almost It feels like pulling teeth to be able to get those 6, 7, 8 run outbursts. And like, they can't happen all the time realistically. But when you look at some of the pitchers that they've faced, and again, we're going to have to kind of cut the dividing line at pre-deadline, post-deadline, because it's going to be a different feeling team now after the deadline. But they have not gotten to enough of those mediocre pitchers in recent weeks. But again, tonight, Tyler Glasnow, it's kind of back to the early season storyline where you're facing tough pitching, and it's like you find a way to lock in, and you get the benefit of Sonny Gray pitching one of his best games of the year as well. And they do just enough against this Dodger pitching staff. You just wish that when they're facing the Cal Quantrells of the world, that they can score the 6 or 7 runs that they're supposed to when they're facing mediocre guys. Even like the Sandy Alcantara game, he's stunk this year, and they made him look like, he was the Cy Young version of Sandy. Yeah. So it's, and we'll talk a little bit too. We got to talk about the Luken Baker thing, and got to talk about the corner outfield comment that Oli Marmol made earlier today. That's going to maybe color what we see the rest of the year. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I think as he's looking through it, he's going to try to win some baseball games still, because I think that's the best way for him to make an impression. And it's the best thing for the organization if they can win as many games as they can. The guys that are involved in that are going to grow and benefit from that. And so
totally
managing that like developmental line for certain guys versus, hey, how can we put together the right lineup to give us a chance? I know that fans are upset about, the way that it's broken down, and I get it. I think if anybody, you're upset with the front office for not making a move last week that would have made this puzzle fit together a little bit better, because they simply have too many guys, and they're going to waste some opportunities, and they're going to waste some careers, I think, doing it this way. But for Oli Marmol, I don't know what better choice he has other than trying to juggle it the best that he can, because the front office didn't give him any help. They had people knocking on the door. Obviously, if you traded Lars Nootbaar, you don't win tonight's game, but they had people knocking on the door to, potentially help the Cardinals thin the herd a little bit. And they said we had to be blown away, and they weren't, so they didn't make a move. But that's going to make the job of the manager even a little bit more difficult here the next 2 months.
We're going to talk more about that here in a moment. This is Card Central post game here on STL Sports Central. Cardinals 3-2 winners over the Dodgers tonight. Just a reminder that all of the content here on STL Sports Central is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Nothing beats relaxing on that hot summer day, watching some baseball. Not as hot out there in LA tonight, but we know how hot it's been here in St. Louis as of late. The simplest way, though, to get in on the action is to download the DraftKings Pick 6 app. It's super simple. You just have to pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players. And then just like that, you're in the mix for some big cash prizes. Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on that fun, guys. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6. And right now, new customers can get $25. Yes, $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. All right there on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
He's Brenden Schaeffer. I'm Ethan Hannaford. This is the Card Central post-game show on STL Sports Central. Starting off with this comment here from Donovan asking the question, was it the right call to take Sonny Gray out after the 7th inning? He was at 90 pitches at that point. As we had mentioned, he had been dealing. Only 1 hit allowed, the 1 earned run, 1 walk, had struck out 8, and looked pretty solid in the 7th inning as well. Brenden, your thoughts?
I mean, we got to stop asking this question when it comes to Sonny Gray. We have seen time and time again why Sonny Gray leaves a game. It's because he's ready to be done with the game, right? 90 pitches, 7 innings, that's a job well done. Whether Oli thought he had more in the tank, whether Sonny thought he had more in the tank, usually that communication is upfront and honest, and you're not going to find somebody with more candor about that than Sonny Gray.
And has been his entire time in St. Louis.
Yes. It's not like there will not come a moment where I'm questioning the manager because of when Sonny Gray left a game. because he's in tune with his body. He's in tune with Oli Marmol to let him know what he's feeling. I'm not out in LA. We're sitting here at our houses talking about this game, but I think I am conditioned at this point to go, whenever Sonny's taken out of a game, there's probably a reason. And it's just, they're 57-57, gang. It's not worth getting worked up for me. Guy threw 90 pitches, guy threw 7 innings. If he had thrown 90 pitches in 4 innings, would I think it's a little bit, all right, it probably stressful innings, so they took him out. 90 pitches in 5 innings, well, he got through 5. Sonny Gray was not signed. I know this is kind of a weird dynamic because he's the ace if he's your number one, and he is their number one, but he's not the guy that's going to always go that extra step when it comes to, well, I pitched 7 and I was efficient, I can go 8. I don't know. It's just one of those things that it's okay if it bothers you. Just know that it is kind of what it is. And especially now where it's like, all right, is it worth it to have him? And yes, the Cardinals should still try to win as many games as they can, and they will. But is it worth it to risk it on getting back to the 500 mark with 2 months to go left in the season? It's just not. It's never going to be a question to me of, well, did they take him out too early? No. The answer is almost always going to be no, because there was a conversation, I'm assuming, that happened that I wasn't privy to. And it's just what it is. I understand why you ask it. I'm not making fun of you, Donovan. That's going to be the stock answer when it's Sonny Gray. There's probably a reason just about each and every time. 7 innings, 90 pitches early August. Job well done. He was fantastic tonight.
There's been some conversation in the chat about Brendan Donovan has been struggling as of late since the All-Star break, batting 172, 10 hits and 58 at-bats, 1 home run, 2 doubles in that time, just a 505 OPS. I saw someone in the chat say, someone say right here, needs to be batting 7th. I've seen some people saying he just looks uncomfortable right now at the top. Would fit better in that 3 or 5 spot. We know that Brendan Donovan, we've heard it, we've seen it, right? This guy is the definition of consistent. Is this a time when you're nearing about 3 weeks of some serious struggle from Brendan Donovan, where he has been quiet offensively? Is there a point where you consider moving him out of the top of the order? And if so, have we met that, or have we gotten to that point yet?
Yeah, and I'm not going to pretend like this is rocket surgery anymore, because again, it feels like the stakes are lower now. When you trade away, almost half of your high-performing bullpen, it changes the state of things. And so in the past, it's like every lineup move gets discussed as though it's a big deal if it's going to happen. And you kind of set that precedent by rarely changing the lineup. But then when a manager is changing the lineup around all the time, fans complain because there's no consistency with the lineup. And so you can't win. There's no real right or wrong way to do it. But now, because it's like a thing, that's why I would change it more often, because then it's like, well, it's not really a thing. It's no big deal when you're doing it. It's not because a guy's struggling. We don't have to make a huge deal out of it. But Donnie has been struggling. There's a player that I'm ready to see bat leadoff that his numbers don't suggest he should be doing it. But because the stakes are lower and I'm thinking about the future, I kind of want to see what this looks like. Who do you got? Who do you think?
Say Victor Scott.
Yeah, I'd go ahead and put him 1. He doesn't look great at the plate either. But anytime he gets on base, it's a double. And I've been resisting this for a while because the numbers didn't dictate it. Vic, he's hitting 225. His OPS is 625. But he'll take a walk. On the last homestand, we started to see that a little bit from him. And the more I thought about it, again, it's because Donovan's struggling. So I don't want to make a big deal out of it and say it's because Donovan's struggling. But I don't consider it if Donovan is plugging along at the top. But now if you're going to say, well, the option you're going with is struggling, and how often do we see a guy move and that's the thing that unlocks him? It happened for Newpar, right? Almost immediately after he moved way down in the order, he started coming around. That was in June or so. I'm going to go Victor Scott 1, as my standard lineup. I'll put him at the top. I'll go Herrera 2, Burleson 3, Contreras 4. I'll go Newpar 5, Wynn 6, and I'll go Donovan 7th, because I think you maintain the lefty-righty of it all. No, Herrera should bat second because that's where generally your best, most impactful hitter hits. I saw a conversation about that in the chat. No, second is a great spot for Herrera, sandwiched between two lefties. Contreras fits very neatly as cleanup, sandwiched again between two lefties. And when we're seeing some solid signs from him, the big home run tonight, it had been a while for him, and so that was good to see. And yeah, then I'll go Donovan seventh, and you cap it off however you want. You got to fit Gorman in there most of the time. That's the other thing that we talk about. Like Walker, Gorman, not in tonight's lineup. How in the heck do you figure this out regularly? I would not be prioritizing playing time for Sajacy. I would have every day he's healthy, Gorman would be in there over Sajacy, and Sajacy can learn and hang around. He's not really performing offensively. He's playing a decent defensive third, but I would rather see Gorman in there because I don't know that Sajacy is somebody that I'm just clamoring to have in my daily 2026 lineup. I got to find out if Gorman should be on this team or not. He should play more often than and again, I'm saying this not knowing, is he dealing with the back still? What's going on? If he's healthy, he's in there. Pretty much no questions asked for me. I don't even care about the matchup anymore. That's where I might disagree with the manager. Walker, I don't have a great answer for how you do it, but Gorman's the one that it does seem a lot simpler. I would be playing him over Sajacy. But yeah, my top seven would be kind of that way. You'd have the four lefties and the three righties, and I'll look at Victor Scott at the top just because if he walks, he's on second base. And like beyond what the stats suggest, that could provide a little bit of a je ne sais quoi that the lineup could use. So yeah, I would do it.
J. Call commenting saying Donnie should be at the top of the lineup, but I'm fine moving him down because he's been slumping, and then follows saying on base percentage should be in the most important stat for Scott. Victor Scott, the second, is tied for the team lead in walks with Alec Burleson since that would be, let's see, since the start of the second half. Something else I think is interesting. He's batting only 170, but his on base percentage is 279 because he is taking better. He is taking better ABs, having better plate appearances. So that is an encouraging sign. You would like to see. The bat follow. I think it's going to. It's going to take a little bit of time. You could argue perhaps that the reason that he's near the top in walks is because he plays the most of pretty much anyone on the team. But Mason Wynn has one walk since the All-Star break, so it's not necessarily a straight up. One or the other either way. So let's talk about, I know we've been discussing it a little bit, but let's really address this because I want to hear the people's thoughts on this as well. Earlier today, Katie Wu tweeted out saying, expect a rotation of corner outfielders as manager Oli Marmol again attempts to find a suitable combination for consistent playing time. One player who won't be a factor, Alec Burleson, who has earned his right to be in the everyday lineup, Marmol said. And this has gotten a lot of reaction out of people since that was tweeted before the game. A lot of people making the argument that Lars Nootbaar is playing too much. A lot of people frustrated that over the last 4 games since Lars Nootbaar returned, that Jordan Walker has only played in 2 of them when he had been hitting well and seemed like starting to click a little bit, get into a stride prior to that. There's been a lot of commotion about this overall, and I think that regardless of what your opinion is, I think everyone can agree that there is not really a win-win situation right now because there is so much redundancy and so many different pieces that the Cardinals are trying to have to find time for. I'm wondering, is there a combination that is going to please everyone for Oli Marmol as far as being able to put together the right lineup? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's not. Like I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but it's just there's too many pieces. And when everybody's healthy, even with Arenado taking the little vacation, it's not going to be possible to get everybody in there. And so you have to sort of pick and choose. No, to me, Nootbaar is not a guy that's going to just ride pine when he's out, when he's healthy and available. You're either trying to figure out what he is for the future or build up some value to be able to move him in the offseason when he's still got 2 years of team control. And, as he showed tonight, he can make game-saving types of plays. So he's impactful. He'd be in there for me. I think Burleson is on a higher plane as well than where Nootbaar has been. and where pretty much everybody but Herrera has been offensively. But I also, part of that conversation was that he's, Burles is just going to play every day. And I get that, but I think it's risky to just have Jordan Walker be completely dead and buried. That's the one guy that I would look at and say, I just don't think you can. I don't think you can do that with him. Tonight it was Nootbaar Burleson, Herrera. Okay, those guys are going to play a bunch. The Gorman thing is just Sajacy. I'll bench Sajacy to get Gorman in there because Gorman's the one I need to know more about by February. Sajacy's got some more time when it comes to his situation. I would be leveling that out a little bit more. Jordan Walker's got to find a way in there. And look, Oli Marmol clearly is playing the guys that he thinks can be the guys for this team. It does not seem as if he is sold on where Jordan Walker is at. Understandable. You look at the stats, and that's totally fair. But that's where the rub comes, because you could have found a way to absolve some of this with a trade at the end of the deadline period, and they didn't do it. So it's going to fall on the manager. That's what the money's for. It's not easy, but he's going to have to figure out a way to continue to manage that, massage that group, and it's tricky. The one that worries me is Walker, because even though I think he's been disappointing, if he's around, if I was insistent, and I said I would be stubborn about not trading Jordan Walker at his lowest value to get to find out more about him. I guess there'll come a point, maybe, Ethan, where that happens, but it's not like Nootbaar or Herrera or Burleson are these old veteran players that you're plugging in instead. It's a bunch of younger guys that you're thinking any one of these guys could be part of our next core. And so trying to figure that out is tricky. And as Brenden mentions here, he's been pretty good since the break. Maybe not good, but decent. I think he had shown signs of improvement. And then it seems like now it's going to be hard for him again to find playing time, which I think is unfortunate for his development, which I former first round pick and still very young, I would want to see more of him, but I'm not pretending like Ollie's got an easy task, because there's just too many guys when you're fully healthy.
It's a small sample size. 4 games is a very small sample size. I'm going to be curious to see if this continues on, because I agree with you. I would like to see Jordan Walker prioritized over probably all of these guys, as you mentioned, because he feels like the guy that you don't feel comfortable trading. But in order for you to have an idea of what he's going to be, you got to continue to give him at-bats. So I'm going to be very curious to see how Oli Marmol continues to navigate that. It's a small sample size, 4 games. People were freaking out, I think, a little bit over the top. Let's give it a week or two. And if we're still seeing that trend, then maybe we can then those conversations can get going and pick up, I think, a little bit.
But again, there's no bad choices. Like Herrera has to play. Burleson, you want to be in there. Nootbaar, I guess, is the one that people are harping on. They watched the game tonight, though, I presume. So hopefully they saw what happened.
You would think so. Let's go ahead and wrap up with this. The Cardinals made one transaction today, claiming left-handed pitcher Anthony Veneziano off waivers. As a result, Luken Baker was placed on waivers and claimed by the Los Angeles Dodgers, and then optioned to the Oklahoma City Comets, their AAA team. So Luken Baker ends his time with the Cardinals, batting slightly over 200 and not very many plate appearances, 4 home runs at the big league level. I think it said he hit like 136 home runs in the minors. I read that earlier.
He was the king of the minor leagues.
Yeah. So, one of those guys that, had the power, but just didn't really make sense at this point for the Cardinals. Just didn't seem like there was a spot for him. Too many redundancies once again on this roster. And he fit into a lot of those. Putting a bow on Luken Baker's time in St. Louis. How do you react to it? How do you react also to the pickup? Now, being that there's not very many left-handed pitchers on this 40-man roster right now.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of part of the impetus, right? Because the guy from Miami was waived, Veneziano, and he had 20 strikeouts and 21 innings for them this year out of their bullpen, 4.7 ERA. It feels like kind of another John King. That's fine. John King's hurt, so they, wanted to have somebody available for that. No problem with that. They didn't have to waive Luken Baker as part of that, though. The 40-man still sits at 36. So people wondered why now. What's the reason that Luken Baker ends up getting waived when they didn't actually need to clear a spot? Brenden says once we got Blaze, Luken was gone. I actually think that's right. Blaze Jordan comes over in the trade for Steven Matz. He is not on the 40-man, but will be as of the offseason because he'll be Rule 5 eligible otherwise. I do believe Blake is correct that Baker is the Memphis career leader in homers. I mean, he led the team
that record last year
for a bunch of years in a row, so that's not surprising. But I think there could be an element of this as you go to the trade deadline and you see, okay, not only are they not trading me to another organization, I'm Luken Baker, they're not trading me somewhere where I might have a chance to progress because here I'm blocked by Contreras. I'm blocked by, they're going to use Burleson ahead of me at first base. They're going to use Herrera probably ahead of me at first base eventually. I don't get moved, and they trade for a guy who does the same stuff that I do and is younger than me. That's going to be on the 40-man next year. Now, I don't know if this is as simple as Luken Baker or his agent kind of telling the Cardinals, we're ready. Can we go ahead and do this and see if I land somewhere? Because if he lands with, the White Sox and can go play in the big leagues the rest of the way, bully for him. He lands with the Dodgers where that very well may not be the case, but maybe it was still worth the try because it was either spend the rest of the year in Memphis toiling away where he's not performing great, but is still hitting some homers, and then get DFA'd or outrighted off the 40-man in the offseason where you didn't have any hope of maybe making the big leagues this year. Instead, he thought, okay, maybe I have a shot. I'm not saying they executed that, but it seems very plausible that Blaze Jordan happens, Luken Baker or his agent says, let's make this happen, see what happens. Wouldn't be surprised if that were the case. That's why the timing, I think, makes sense. And also, like, Luken Baker feels like totally a guy that's going to go to Korea next year and slug a bunch of homers. Before you take that step in your career, maybe one last gasp to try to make it happen. The Dodgers, and again, for people who would say, well, we could have traded something and you traded him and got something. No, you couldn't have, because the Dodgers are at the very end of the waiver claim line because they're one of the best records in baseball. Everybody before the Dodgers could have had him for free, and they said, that's okay, we're good. So, no, they couldn't have traded him for value. He's 28 years old. He's not a prospect. Nice guy. I hope it works out for him, but it was, this is an example that's going to happen a dozen more times between now and November because they've got a bunch of guys on the 40-man that aren't really serving a purpose. Will they do all of that movement in one off season? Maybe not. My hope would be that Chaim Bloom goes, yeah, there's just a lot here that we don't really have a lot of utility for, and we're going to clean house. I think Cardinals fans want to see that too. The problem is when you do that, you have to add new players, even if it's not sexy ones. You have to add minor league depth. You have to add guys that could be, capable of residing on a big league bench. All those things that have to happen. It doesn't seem like John Mozeliak has been able to do that. Like they realized last year that they were absolutely understaffed when it came to right-handed bench bat possibilities. And so they wrung out that wash rag and they got Ryan Vilade popped out of it this offseason. That's the best they could muster. And we saw how that went. So the next guy hopefully will be better than Mo at doing this because this has been a thing. Don't tell me about the 40-man roster clog. There isn't one. There isn't one. And there won't be one. All right? It's all good. There's spots to be had. Not disparaging any individual player, but we kind of know the drill. And it's been a long time coming. So Luken can go somewhere and hopefully perform well. But clearly the Cardinals weren't using him, so why hold him hostage?
It is officially Tuesday, August 5th, and the St. Louis Cardinals play baseball today. So they will look to win a second straight game against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Miles Michaelis will head out on the mound for the Redbirds, and I don't know who is pitching for the Dodgers. It is Emmett Sheehan.
There you go.
There you go. It's been a late one tonight, and, it's just how it happens to be for these West Coast games. We appreciate all of you joining us and staying up with us for it. Cardinals, 3-2 winners tonight. Game of the Year candidate. Wrapping up here, he's Brenden Schaeffer. I'm Ethan Hannaford. This has been Card Central Postgame on STL Sports Central.